Hi, Brent. How's it going?
Hey, how you doing? How you doing? Got the technical difficulties out the way, huh?
Yeah, well, so for some reason on my side, it's repeating everything.
Oh
Um,
wow. Well,
so
hopefully we can navigate through it because you good on my end. I hear you pretty clear, perfectly.
okay, good. Yeah, so I think just to get started, uh, talk about your kind of work before starting Jammaround, like where you come
Yeah.
from in terms of music videos, and marketing agency, and what led you into starting Jammaround.
Yeah. So I graduated from Tuskegee University with a political science degree. I learned a lot about media, which led me to get into it when I moved back home to New Orleans after I graduated. And this was also an opportunity for me to reach a lot of the artists in New Orleans as well. So I came back and I started shooting music videos instead of getting like the traditional after college job. And I started really delving headfirst into the New Orleans artistic ecosystem. So the moniker was Dr. Clips. You can look it up, see some of my videos if you want to. But I've been shooting videos for a lot of different brands, a lot of independent artists. We done work with Young Money. I've shot in videos for Juvenile, just a lot of work within New Orleans ecosystem because there's a lot of music artists thriving there. So afterwards, Neutral Grounds, which was the marketing agency, came as a result of me trying to figure out a way to upsell the music video services. So what we started doing was shooting the music video and then charging you to promote it on our Instagram. The Instagram currently has like a 100,000 followers. So it was a good leveraging point for us to build these relationships with the artists, get hands on the ground or boots on the ground, and really see what they needed to try and help build the New Orleans music ecosystem. So that's where it all started, just with the intent to try to build the New Orleans music ecosystem because traditionally we're so used to all of this exploitation that goes on. So it led me into getting into the industry, working with these artists, eventually starting a marketing agency to act as a platform that could become a pipeline to bridge them into future opportunities or more nationally renowned opportunities, which we have done. And it resulted in us really focusing heavily on the music, which transitioned into the creation of Jammaround.
Wow. So, yeah, and talk about kind of how how you ended up building the team around Jamround, and what was kind of the initial steps. So, I want to start a company. I see this need. I see this niche. What are the next steps?
Yeah, so in college, one thing about Tuskegee was that it was a small demographic, small population demographic. So we were able to test a lot of different things as students in Tuskegee. So me and one of my co-founders, Marlon, we're actually fraternity brothers. So we pledged Alpha Phi Alpha Gamma Phi chapter at Tuskegee. So we would throw college parties and we would do these award shows. We started a media company at Tuskegee where we would get the students to come together and do different content ideas that they had in their minds. So we would always just create different things and different projects just to do it out of either fun or trying to make a few bucks. But Jammaround was just another one of those projects. It was us coming off of an album. We tried to create this album that was distributed through Empire Records by way of PJ Morton, who reached out to us to do it. And while we were doing it, there were so many issues with the workflows, the metadata issues, intellectual property issues, people accusing people of stealing music and all of that stuff, that the album didn't even come out. We wound up putting out a single. And the single is what we use to actually distribute through Empire, which is still out right now. It's a New Orleans bounce record. But that was the catalyst for us realizing that okay, there's true pain points in the actual creation process of music. But when we were in Tuskegee, we did a lot of different projects just to do it. And my other co-founder, Donovan, he came along and was the pretty much the tech brains behind everything that all of my crazy wild ideas. So I would come at him, right? I would come at him, I would come at him with this crazy idea, and he would help build the infrastructure to support it. So we've made hundreds of thousands of dollars together just by building and testing, whether it was YouTube content, whether it was building out Grounds tech infrastructure. So Marlon was my college partner, and then Donovan was post college. So when Jammaround came about, I was like, okay, what better way to bring two people who I've worked with in the past that I know have different strengths that could be applicable to what we have going on. Marlon is also a DJ, so he's worked with artists as much as I've worked with artists in the music video space. And Donovan, he's just this whiz kid, scrappy CTO tech guy. So he allows us the flexibility to create these solutions so that we could get them out to more people.
And I'm always really fascinated with marketing strategies, right? And especially with it being such a constantly changing market, right?
Yeah.
There's so many different tools people can use through social media, through YouTube. How do we monetize, content? That's a big, obviously, question, and that changes in a
Yeah.
lot of people in terms of like, what you get paid per view on YouTube versus a stream on Spotify. What is the best platform to use for your artist? Can you talk just a little bit about kind of your experience? Because you've managed artists, because you've broke artists. What were some of the things that you saw that worked, or what were some kind of the strategies that you, um, im- you know,
Employ.
initiated to help it happen?
Yeah, so I've always been a strong content guy. So even like third grade through 12th grade, I was in talented arts visual, like where we had to take a test to get in the actual visual arts class. And I've always been this computer nerd. So there was always this intersection between content and technology that always fascinated me. So when social media kicked off and those intersections pretty much took over the airwaves, I was primed to be at a position to capture the viewership because I understood the platforms and what they wanted from a visual perspective. So when you speak about Facebook, when you speak to Instagram and TikTok, all of these platforms have different languages. TikTok has its own language, YouTube has its own language, etc. So what I did was I was studied what visual elements were they communicating, and I was able to tailor my content to fit those and trigger algorithm responses. So if you look at Nutri-Grounds, we have around 300, 400K across Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. You look at Jammaround's Instagram page, and TikTok page, we've had videos go to over 200, 300,000 views just because we understand how to speak to the platforms. And that's a testament to our millennial experience. We were raised with technology, so we understand how to speak with technology a little bit more fluently. And just the artistic background that I have, it just put us in a great position to take advantage of these tools that were arising, as we were growing.
And how do you feel about like, paying like paid promotions with some of those platforms? Do you feel like they're
Yeah.
effective or,
Yeah.
yeah.
So one thing that they're super effective at is developing economics, right?
Mhm.
Because I can put out a video, but I can't predict it's less what's the word I'm looking for? It's less predictable, it's less transparent to see over time. So if I'm just doing organic marketing, it can happen at any given moment. It can be because Instagram allowed it to happen. It can be because somebody shared it. So it's not as consistent. That's the word I'm looking for. It's not as consistent as you running ads and developing true unit economics, right? So
Right.
the ads are powerful when it comes to knowing exactly how much you spending per customer and exactly how you spending, how much you're getting out. If I'm doing organic marketing, I'm spreading my budget across influencers, different website blogs, pages. I don't have the tracking tools to track all of that. So when you think paid ads, it's very good for creating those economics so that when you go to people who may want to fund your opportunity, you have solid economics saying that, okay, if none of this organic stuff worked, we can put this much in and get this much out. So definitely recommend Meta ads, YouTube ads, TikTok. I'm not really familiar with their paid ad
Right.
landscape so much so because I'm scared if I start doing it, they'll retract on my organic views.
Okay, yeah. So let's talk a little bit about Jammaround. Um, how long has the company been around, and where do you see kind of it having impact within the industry? What are some of the hopes, for you and your team?
Yeah. So one thing that we noticed with Jammaround was the fact that technology is enabling so much music to be created. So there is an influx in created music because the technology infrastructure is allowing for more people to become creators. So that was one of the big issues we ran into when we were trying to make that album. Metadata issues, of course, intellectual property issues, of course, but really the workflow issues, not being able to even get to the point of creation because they didn't understand basic fundamentals of music creation. So our initial goal was to educate them by getting more artists together. So we initially released this platform, which was like a LinkedIn style, Tinder style for music creators. Like you swipe through, if I'm a producer, I could find a rapper, I could find a singer. That was our initial thesis. And we wanted to our vision for that was to eventually create a marketplace where we would have these artists transact with one another. So a different way for artists to transact assets, music assets, as well as music services. We thought that the networking platform was the path to that, which it was, but we realized that the artists don't really care about networking as much as they do about collaboration.
Mm,
So we were tasked with a cold start issue where it was hard to retain the users because they would come in looking for people, but if looking for you didn't result in us making music, I don't really care. So what we did was we built a songwriting workspace called the Jam Pad. It's a collaborative songwriting workspace that added actual music creation into our ecosystem. At first, it was just a networking platform. Now it became a collaborative songwriting workspace. So through doing this, we were going through different accelerator programs. The Idea Village was the first one where we won a $400,000 commitment in a pitch competition. The second one was Black Ambition, which was hosted by Pharrell Williams. And we
awesome.
were getting advisory to build out into the stage where we were like the songwriting platform, right? Once we started seeing how users were using the platform, we realized that there are so many intellectual property questions. Who owns this? How do we facilitate this? It was so much that we turned all of our attention from workflow to intellectual property and metadata because we realized that that's the true pain point in the music industry. With all of this music data being created every day, there's around 17 million songs being created a month alone on BandLab. That's one app, right? With all of this music metadata being created, there is no way to accurately track ownership, accurately make sure you get your royalties back. And it starts at the songwriting space. So traditionally, music creators would wait until they get to distribution to set ownership splits in their song. Whereas me as a startup founder, we would never wait until we get to product market fit to decide who owns the company. Like it just creates too many problematic infrastructures and discrepancies within who owns what.
Right.
So we created the Jam Pad because it was at the point of creation, like when you first compose the song, when you first think of the ideas, and we attached ownership tracking tools to that system. So now that if you're an artist, you can create and write and track your ownership splits from the point of creation. And not only that, if you're a reputable artist and you have a manager, a lawyer, or a label or a publisher, you can bring them in via our CRM platform and they can create different solutions based off your real-time collaboration data. So if I need to create a split sheet or if I need to create a publishing agreement and I wrote my song in Jammaround, my manager can just pull up his app, log into his account, and generate all of the key documents we need without even asking me who I had on the song because it's already in the app. So it,
Wow, that's great. That's super. Yeah, I mean, because yeah, I know for a lot of artists, it's such a process to. I mean, first of all, I mean, it's a process to make music, and then to have to fill out all of the splits and figure all of those things out way down the line, and then you kind of forget, and obviously there can be, like you said, problematic conversations when things go public in terms of a song of kind of who owns what, and to be able
right.
to do that. So basically, what you're saying is that in this platform, you can create and at the same time set up all of the metadata, set up all of the splits and the royalties within the platform. That's what the
Yeah,
focus is.
because the problem is that everybody hates admin, right?
Right.
Music artists, they hate admin. They just want to create. So it's like I don't know if you're a dog person, but if you got to feed your dog medicine, you put it in the food,
Right.
right? So if I want to give you admin, I'm going to put it in your creation tools. I'm not about to sit there and give you a whole separate system. I'm just going to put the admin in where you write. I'm going to put the admin in where your ideas and your creativity is flowing so that as you're doing it, you can get your medicine while you're eating your regular food that you like, essentially. So that was our approach to create that system and put it in a point when they're creating the music.
And so I know that most songs are tracked by the ISRC codes, right?
Mhm.
Is that something that is kind of separate from this, where like you would upload it, you can create. I mean, obviously, usually the distribution creates one for you.
Mhm.
Is that something that would come after, or is that also a part of the platform?
Yeah, so we actually created options for master metadata. So if you were to get into the software, we created something called the song table, which is this comprehensive situation where you see every piece of metadata associated with the song. So let me take you through the journey. I'm an artist, and let's
Mhm.
say I want to write a new song. I get in Jammaround, I open it up, and let's say I took notes, and the notes are in like Apple Notes or something. Go copy and paste the notes into Jamround's notes section. Now we have the brainstorm of the piece. If I have someone on the song, I can invite them as a collaborator, have them come in, and I can assign them a specific song element to contribute to. So if I just want you to give me a verse and make it one verse, you can only have the permission to create one verse within that song table. Then you also have the master data. So I can upload the master, we can approve the master. There's a version log showing every single thing that happened while we were creating the song as well. And if we are in the composition stage, it can be just a system that holds composition data. But let's say you're ready to bring it to market. So we go and create the master recording, bring that back into Jammaround, upload that, and then we start filling in all of the additional metadata needed to bring it to actual full commercialization. So you can use Jammaround as a tool to bring ideas into drafts. You can use Jammaround as a tool to bring compositions to market, or you can use it to simply structure before you create your master recording. But essentially, Jammaround will hold all of the necessary metadata needed to register your music with the Copyright Office, distribute it with a DSP, or even register it with a performance rights organization. We're going to have all of the useful metadata within Jammaround already, so that once you're ready to commercialize, you can just push it or register it or distribute it wherever you need it to be.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I want to post a comment from CryptoSlav right there. He says Brent's exceptional ability to think outside the box and push boundaries has truly set him apart as an innovator in many ways. So
Slav, what's up, man? That's my man. Yeah, yeah. I met him on TikTok actually during
okay,
the Web3 days. Yeah, we were doing a lot of Web3 work, man. He's a founder too. He's
okay,
building some interesting stuff,
yeah,
definitely. But appreciate that, Slav, man.
yeah. So, and I think uh, I agree with him that that idea is really important, especially because you know, as someone that is building kind of music business education, it's really hard. And as an artist and a performer, the idea of expecting artists to fill out all their metadata to be on top of all their admin is actually just not realistic.
Not at
Um,
all.
I
Not at
mean,
all.
you would love to be like, hey, you should know all. I mean, I feel like any artist should have a working knowledge of how things work in terms of just like what that means, but to
Mhm.
expect them to be experts in the admin, I think is unrealistic. And so to
Unrealistic.
build tools where they can create and also have all of that important information, I think is a brilliant idea. So congratulations on that. That's awesome.
Yeah, thanks, man. It was a lot of work, and I do want to shout out our accelerator partners, Idea Village, Black Ambition, and then the last one that we were recently in was A16Z TXO Accelerator. So that was a real big program. All three of them really were super instrumental in helping us not only carve out our ideas, but put us into that category to where we can accept venture funding and be at a position where we can raise capital and just be marketable to investors as well and to our user base. So definitely been an exciting journey.
Yeah, because we also I think Diego from Dawn Audio went through
Yeah.
right
Yeah,
through
he was in
Ideal
our
Village.
cohort.
Okay,
Yeah, yep. We
awesome.
went through the same time.
Yeah, I mean it
We
sounds
actually
like
had the same mentor.
okay, because both of you guys are building just really forward-thinking companies. So that must be just an incredible program.
Yeah.
In terms
New
of
Orleans.
New
A
Orleans,
lot of
there it is.
yeah, there's a lot of music pain points in New Orleans. So that's
Right.
it's a hotbed for those solutions because it's so problematic.
Yeah. 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 I mean, being someone that is tapped into the music tech space now and has been to, like California, which is a conference that happens in Belgium, and hearing all the different types of things people are building. Both of you are building what to me are the most practical tools for
Right,
musicians, right?
right, right.
I think some people are really there was obviously the big NFT and Web3 space, and that's still obviously evolving.
Mhm.
But it's a little, I think
Not
it's a little
practical
more in the
yet.
future.
Yeah, the user experience isn't there,
Right.
and we sold NFTs, man. Like I sold during the NFT run. Like my personal TikTok has over 100,000 followers, and I would talk
Right.
about culture tech, web tech. My first post, which was like 3 years ago, was on AI.
Yeah.
Right. So we've done that, and we've sold the NFTs, man. We've made bull market money, like all of that type of stuff. But we realized that the user experience is what stops the longevity. If
Right.
you don't have good user experience, then it's not gonna catch on. And with the crypto, it just added a lot of clunkiness as far as user experience goes. The security, okay, great, but how useful is it? How practical is it? Like how
Hmm.
can how easy is it for me to onboard my friends, right? If money isn't the sole um, motivator, will this last, right? Like, will people do this without the incentive to make money? So definitely seeing that, and we definitely applied that to our overall marketplace vision, because music as an asset is one of the most created for sure, also one of the most lucrative, and it can be monetized in the most ways. It can be monetized in 6 different ways. There are 2 different copyrights associated with each song, and
Right.
there are so many songs that are being created that there's no way to manage these assets. So when we pivoted into this music rights management type of field, it was more so understanding the trends in music private equity.
Right.
Streaming has created consistency in music, which has attracted investors to start buying catalogs,
Right.
which
I
is
know
now
that's been massive now.
massive, right?
Yeah.
And
Absolutely
the
massive.
only thing you can guarantee is that music is going to be more, only going to be more music being created. And it's only going to be more music being distributed because more content is being created. And music is the lifeblood of content. So music sync deals are going to start going up. Music artists who aren't as big are going to start landing deals. One of my friends, 504 Icy Girl, landed a sync deal on Hulu. Call Me Cat, like a show, and she's popular in New Orleans, but she's not a nationally renowned artist. But
Hmm.
to say that music as an asset is about to be so lucrative, Goldman Sachs just put out an article saying that music is in the air solely because of music private equity. More music catalogs are going to be start being acquired, not by the big business, but by small content firms, small production companies who want to build up their catalogs, and that's going to drive music revenue. But the issue is there is no place to trade these assets.
Right.
Music, there isn't even a transactable format where I can sell everything needed to be sold as a music asset in one file format, which is what we've been creating, the jam file, a music metadata file that holds all of this data so that music can be transacted in one piece, so that we can eventually have a marketplace that has everyone's rights data associated with it, because we have all of the rights data within our app already. It's just so many different pieces when you're thinking about music, and it's moving so fast that it takes fast thinkers, forward thinkers, to even be on top of this, because you can be out of the industry for 3 months and come back and it's an entirely different industry.
Yeah, and it's fascinating to me because from an artist standpoint, there's a lot of complaints, rightfully so, for basically what you're getting paid per stream, right?
Yeah,
In terms of the money not being good, artists not being able to build sustainable careers, especially with the fact that touring and just everything is more expensive. Everything's more expensive. And then on the flip
everything.
side, you have all of these companies acquiring catalogs and this massive investment, happening almost simultaneously. And it's like, how do you and I think, how do you how do you navigate that space, right? And I think what you're talking about is also something that I've seen, is that people that are building catalogs of good music,
Mhm.
um is that will have longevity no matter what,
No
as long,
matter what.
you know so, but it's a long game, it's not a short
It's a
game,
long game,
it's a long game.
right? And the beauty of music is that, and the reason why the investors love it is because it's the only alternative asset that yields cash flow.
Hmm.
All of these other assets like trading cards, Pokemon cards, all of that stuff, that doesn't yield cash flow. Music has streaming dollars, which now my asset can appreciate over time and it can yield cash flow. So even if it's not a lot of cash flow, it's still cash flow, which is why people need to start looking at the other revenue opportunities to commercialize their assets, because streaming is just a cash flow option. That's just
Right.
going to give you consistent flow of cash. It don't have to be a lot of cash, but as long as it's flowing in. If you have a sync deal every 3 months or so and give you $5,000, $10,000, now you have your asset that you're selling in a different style, a different business model.
Right.
So looking at the music asset for how it can be commercialized in all of the different ways is the answer for artists making money on their music. And that's just in music. You can still sell merch, you can still do shows, you can still do things that aren't even commercializing the actual asset itself. And that comes, like what you said, education, which needs to be built in the tools, because there's so much education needed that we can't, like, no one wants to hear a lecture for 3 4 hours a week for 4 months, which is really what it would take to get a real robust understanding of the music industry. Just
Right.
put it in the tools, they're going to use it all day, they're going to teach themselves as they're using the tools, and we can just be there along the way.
Yeah, and I've seen a couple of music labels who have also kind of shifted their model to basically a catalog. Like that's what they're and that's where they see the business going. And they started as a small label. They were able to generate, a certain amount of revenue, and then they saw this huge opportunity that if we build these massive music libraries,
Yeah.
eventually I think they were actually acquired by Sony. But that's what
Mhm.
happens. It's like you have a bunch of cash flow and a massive catalog that you can, you know, have a global reach. It's going to have value. Well, this has been a great conversation. Yeah, I'm like, well, because I think I talk to a lot of people in the music industry, and you hear lots of sides. A lot of people feel very defeated. They feel very
Oh yeah.
frustrated. And then
Where
there's
there are problems, there are solutions.
yeah, and hearing from someone like you, who sees the opportunity, who sees kind of where it's going, and is building tools to help with that is fantastic. So tell us what's kind of next for Jammaround. What are you guys doing right now? What should everyone be looking out for?
Yeah, so right now we're building out our core offerings. So our mobile app, which is free, available to download on iOS right now, that's available. Beta testing. We have around 1,800 users that have contributed over 1,000 songs to the platform so far. Super good experience learning how they're using it, learning their usage habits, learning what they need as artists. So that's going good. The mobile app is free, of course, and the CRM tool is actually in alpha testing right now. So we've been talking to management companies, publishing companies, a couple of labels to come on as design partners to essentially co-build this with us, and they get discounted services as a result and other rewards with us as a company. So we signed on our first two design partners, Rainier Entertainment out in Nashville and Global Warming out in New Orleans. Really excited to be working with them. They have crazy expertise, 15 years on one side, another 10, 12 plus years on the other side. And we're working on currently getting more design partners as well as closing our pre-seed investment round, which it looks like is getting pretty close. So keep your fingers crossed.
Well, good. I mean, I'm happy to hear that. I think it's great that I mean that's how you do it, right? You build a company by having a collaborative process with people, bringing other people in, and then figuring out the trick of raising enough money to make it happen.
Right, right.
So you know, in building a company, obviously there's going to be ups and downs, and there's going to be shifts as you see
Mhm,
the industry change. How do you deal with fear or doubt? When you
mhm.
kind of build this whole process.
Fear and doubt. I handle fear well, I would say. So even in college, like I was on step team, like doing backflips, doing homecoming on stage and stuff. So I've handled fear pretty positively because it kind of like amps me up in a sense.
Mm,
Like I don't really get discouraged, even when I would be speaking to an investor and they would, pass on the opportunity. That's not something that I would use to get down on myself about. That's something that makes me more revved up to do whatever we need to do. And I guess that's just my benefit as just my personality trait or who I am as a person. And I'm grateful for that because it's tough, right? It's tough to keep like high morale and keep positive outlooks when you're 12, 15 months doing things, trying to chase different opportunities, different goals. It gets discouraging. And then you're dealing with real life. So you know how that happens. Real life
yeah,
comes on,
yeah.
money issues, family issues, just everything. It's like sometimes it feels like the wall is closing in. And I'm just grateful that my personality type just makes me want to just attack the situation. Like I'm not kind of the person that tucks my tail in that. So mental health is super important. I take do therapy. I talk to my therapist. That's super helpful. Keeping good friends around you, keeping people positive energy around you is super important, and just making sure that your team are friends. Like we're co-founders, but we're friends first. Which some people look against. They say that this isn't the best thing to do, but
Right.
it's been really good with us as far as understanding morale. I don't got to worry about somebody walking out on us if we then, let's say, ran out of money tomorrow or something like that. We can still build it because we were doing this before this. So it's just that foundation that you have sets you up to be in your best spirits when you're doing these sprints, trying to raise millions of dollars, trying to get millions of users, and just trying to build a better experience for something that's really this much of a problem.
Yeah, I love that answer, and I also, am someone that gets motivated when people doubt me or when a situation gets harder. I like that challenge. And but then on the flip side, like I exercise, like I will go to therapy, like I'll do all of those things just to make sure that, because I mean it's true, like you have to keep your mind right. And And life can be tough, right? We can have situations that are out of our control that happen and that we have to deal with. And especially while you're building a business, like you don't have really days off. Like you can't kind of
Right.
tap out,
Right.
whereas in a lot of other structures, you can maybe just kind of like take it easy that day. Whereas for you, it's like you have to really keep building. What would be something you would not compromise in your career?
Not compromise. So ethics, right? So when I took my political science classes, right, people would look at college as a political science and think it's like an easy degree or like a small degree. But political science was so important because a statesman can make a decision that'll result in the death of 2 million, 20,000, a lot of people, right? So ethics is super important. We took a lot of philosophy classes, we took a lot of ethics classes. And when you're dealing with all of this creative intellectual property, the rise of artificial intelligence, these ethics is like more important than ever, right? How do you view things from an ethical standpoint, and how do you bring technology into it without compromising core values? One of my actually not one of my books, but I dropped a book probably like two years ago, which was just a collection of some college papers that I threw together called Cyberspace and Politics, which really speaks about who will govern this virtual state when it seems like the technology is what's influencing everyone. So ethics is something that I really don't compromise on. Like if this is just morally wrong and something that I really don't stand behind, and of course that's relative in itself too, then I tend to stick by those values. So ethics, and I make sure that I at least identify what I value and try to stick by that and stick by those core values.
Great. Well, Brent, it's really great to meet you virtually. Hopefully, I get to meet you in person
Yeah, for
someday.
sure.
I I enjoyed learning about the company, learning about kind of the vision. Is there like a book or a movie or a
Mhm.
podcast that inspires you, music that inspires you personally, professionally, that we can share with our guests?
So actually, The Hard Thing About Hard Things by Ben Horowitz
Okay.
was a read that they gave us when we were in Silicon Valley at their headquarters. And I read that book, and I was like, Ben, he put rap lyrics and different song lyrics in the front of each chapter as well. So it had some real musical connections to it. And it just talked about just the hard times, like what's hard about when things get hard and how do you navigate that, specifically through his own story. So this was more of him telling his story and trying to get us to see his lessons through his own story, which was super inspiring considering that we were going through the program. We had actually met him one time. We went out there. So that book, I feel like every founder should skim through. At least if you don't want to just sit there and just read it hard, to at least skim through it and see some of the stuff. There is a lot of good tools, especially in the back, that you can use to scale your business, vet clients, vet employees, and just it keeps your morale boosted. Just understanding that if you're a founder, things are going to get hard.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're definitely going to share that one on our socials. That sounds like fantastic. I just again want to thank you, Brent, for joining us. We'll stay in touch. I'm going to put the website below for everyone, jamround.com. Every song starts somewhere. We are speaking to Brent, CEO of Jamround. Thank you again so much for joining us and taking the time.
Yep.
We'll be in touch.
Anytime. Anytime. Thank y'all so much.
What a great conversation with Brent from Jammaround. It's great to talk with music tech companies that are building things that, from my perspective, look very practical, sound very practical, and are solving real issues. So definitely go check out what he's doing. It sounds super awesome and important for kind of how the industry is evolving and where it's going. Again, my name is Daniel Crane. I am the program director for the Center for Creative Entrepreneurship. And you have been listening to Global Industry Spotlight, a conversational series that talks with different artists, CEOs, organizations, and people in the creative industries. This episode was sponsored by Dell Technologies. Each month we have a music tech focus, and this was our music tech conversation today. So thanks again to Dell for supporting this program. Again, we are streaming out of the Comcast Business Startup Studio located in 2112, Chicago's first music, film, and tech incubator. Visit ccglobal.org to check out all of the events and workshops that we are putting on. We had a very successful music bloom on Tuesday in the Pilsen Bridgeport area, and next will be in Bronzeville. So please come, learn, connect with us. Let us know what you are looking to do or what are some of the things that you see would be opportunities for growth in the creative industries. My name is Daniel, and we will talk with you guys soon. Take care.